PS3 Network.
Bring back that beat.
Yes.
DJ.
Yes. Yes.
Fox 4.
Clarissa Tinsley.
News. Sean Rabb with that patented pause. See, A-Trap might not know about that. We got this news reporter. He's typically a field news reporter, but if it's a big story, Sean Rabb, here, brother. Sean Rabb gonna be out there. Been in the game a long time, probably 4 decades, man. And he got a signature when he signs out. He'll go, Sean Rabb reporting for Fox 4 News. He do it just like that. That joker got a pause, man, for about 10 seconds.
Yeah, he got that pause.
Like every year, it seemed like that joker waited. He had another second for every year. He have been on there.
Cause I know on KKDA,
Wilkes got a.
You got some feedback.
Yeah, you got some bad feedback on your.
It's probably this damn laptop over here. Hang on.
It sound like it may be a rutch or something like that in your speaker or something. That's what I told one of the queens a couple of weeks ago. Theirs was sounding like that. So you probably got a roach in there and it's not getting out good.
Oh man. Well,
it still got feedback.
Oh yeah. Oh. Maybe what mic is it connected to? Is the StreamYard connected to?
He muted himself. Oh.
What's up, CJ? We got CJ in the building early. Look at you, CJ.
And CJ ass ain't never early to the show. He want to come on when we 45 minutes in asking what we reviewing.
What y'all talking about?
Yeah.
Shout out Stacy, Dion. Thank you for tuning in.
Let's call her Stacy Prime Time, considering the tenant of events out there right now. Stacy Prime.
What's going on in the street right now? Bugs in the system. Yeah. All right. So tonight's show, first of all, the crew is back together. It seemed like it's been, I don't know how many weeks.
Yes, we're back.
Been here, but we
back again.
All right, let one test it out.
Nope, you're muted.
We
got nothing. He must
have that mic.
No, it's still. Say it again.
What about now?
It's still feedback. It's not as bad, but it's still. Hey, Trap, we know you're not muted, man. You don't even talk that fast. What's up, Vernon? What's up, Vernon?
What's good? What's good? She's rocking.
All right. What about? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it sounds better.
Yeah, something's up with this mic right here. I don't know what's up with that mic.
Yeah, that sounds good. Now, you was about to say something about Sean Rabb.
No, I was just saying, like, even on KKDA when he was with was Viola Johnson.
Soul 73. Yeah. KKDA.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, Music Soul Weekend.
And he the king of was that Crime Stoppers? Man, I'd be on that Crime Stoppers. See what happened over here? Like, come over here. What we need to do? What we need to do to get these people?
I'm going to have to reach out to Sean Rabb and see if we can't get him on one day.
Might have to. Hey, he'll do it.
I bet he will do it.
I'm surprised you ain't rolled nothing up with them. Those black lips he got.
Wow. Let's go ahead, man. And man.
We're
talking about a local legend.
I'm not telling no
lie. He said,
I'm not telling no lie. Oh. I'm not telling no. Trey Natural's in the building. Thank you for tuning in. We played your promo last week.
I need to remind me again. Reminder. Put that in our. You didn't put it. Never put it in our our group chat. Put it in there, man, because I need to order some oil.
I need to order some things.
Some brewery at all.
Look.
If you have a website, since you're here right now, Trey Naturals, go ahead and
you ain't got no Trey Naturals KY jelly, do you?
Extra strength. Just saying.
All right, we got Keisha in the building. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, I got you.
Just Joe, thank you for tuning in. It's great to see the four of you together again. Yeah, man, it's been a minute.
Thank you.
People out. COVID VD, back VD.
Wow.
Travel VD.
Lungs VD, back VD.
Yeah.
All straight VD going around. She said, yes, I got you. She said, oh, no.
Yeah, she wanted to say she got us on the bird or the
yes.
but I said,
she was like, hold on.
Trey Naturals KY gel. She said, nah.
Extra strength.
He said, you ain't asked me for my promo.
Yeah.
All right, so tonight, reviewing a very powerful, impactful film, Till, which is obviously around Emmett Till, but this is more so focused on the mother, Mamie Till. So giving you a different perspective of the story. We all know what happened. We all know how it affected and how impactful it was during that time. But this kind of zooms in on the mom. Doc, I know you normally we normally get into the routine and you reading the description.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
You got that on tap.
So, yes, sir. The true story of Mamie Till-Mobley's relentless pursuit of justice for her 14-year-old son, Emmett Till, who was brutally lynched in 1955 while visiting his cousins in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who had VD?
Yeah, I had COVID VD, Chief Rocker. And when I was when was it? Freshman in high school, I had the doctor just came in the room doing like this. If you don't know what that is, don't ask.
It's over.
I don't know.
It's over after that.
Hey, shout out to Trinidad and Tobago in the building. Thank you for tuning in, Chin.
Send me that green sauce recipe.
Appreciate that all the way.
Yeah. Got the profile pic on lock.
That green sauce recipe.
And everything.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into some initial thoughts of the film. This is definitely one that I wanted to see because, again, we know what happened, but those feelings are still there. It's still almost fresh when you watch it, but being able to see it portrayed and getting to know more things about, Emmett Till that I didn't know, so we'll get into that stuff tonight.
Yeah, and we committed to it too because we had to take out a second mortgage to pay for this motherfucker. We get to write this off on our taxes. How much we had to pay to watch this?
Yeah,
I'm claiming this film as a dependent.
Yeah,
the IRS gonna call me and say, "Does Lil Tia have a social security number? You didn't put that down."
Yeah, look at that. No, don't worry.
Does he have a last name?
Yeah, right. What's the last name?
Yeah, we just call him Tia. He broke me around Christmas.
Broke your back.
Yeah. Yes. Back VD. A-Trap, initial thoughts.
It was a great movie, man. It was the same old story being told again. It was just it was a lot less sad than I anticipated. These kinds of movies usually provoke emotion, but it didn't. Well, I don't know about you guys. I could just say it didn't provoke anything in me. I don't think it provoked it. I would assume it didn't provoke a lot of emotion in people. It was one thing that stood out. It just showed you, no matter how big we think our circle gets, it gets equally small at the same time. I had no idea Medgar Evers had anything to do with this.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you go, man, the world is big and small at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That was pretty awesome.
Isn't it, man?
And one last thing is, it was kind of cool to see, like, y'all didn't notice, like people like me in Big Illinois, we peeped it when at the very beginning when he bought the wallet. that's in a store that's now known as Macy's, but it was the premier department store at the time. It's called Marshall Field and Company, and y'all know it as Dillard's, right?
Oh, Dillard's.
And we have Macy's.
We had a Marshall Fields for a while, but it was
right. Yeah. But Marshall Fields is the parent company to Dillard's. They did. Macy's bought them, and I don't know about Dillard's, but Macy's. So now
Sanger Harris, you forgot about that.
So it was kind of cool to see kick off a few memories because that building is still there and being used. It's a gigantic department. So that was
right now it's a Macy's.
It's a Macy's now, but even outside of the store, you still see the plaque that's about 2 feet high, 2 feet wide that says Marshall Fields. So that was kind of cool. But other than that, it's good to see, And I get into that with my true feelings about it a little later because I don't mind seeing these kinds of things, but we get into that later.
Yeah, and kind of in the graphic it says that there was somebody quoting saying this everyone needs to see this or this is a must see or something because I think we forget as time passed. I think we need to be reminded that this did actually happen and stuff like this does still happen. So I think it was necessary for those.
Oh, definitely.
Go ahead, Wilkes.
No, I mean it was one of those things where kind of like what A-Trap was saying. I was I have to say I was procrastinating on watching it. I wanted to watch it, but I was just thinking it was going to be so. It is heavy in a sense, but it was to me. It was like, man, how heavy is this going to be? Like, am I going to be able to get through this? Which I'm pretty sure it probably was still maybe just as heavy for other people, for some people. But, no, I enjoyed it. I felt like they were leaning more on the mom in this one. So I do like that aspect because I really didn't. I mean, of her, but the only thing I've ever heard of her is that she was brave and courageous and she wanted to have an open casket. That's pretty much all I've heard. So to see this and to see it from her eyes and really trying to kind of protect her son, knowing that in a moment of inhaling and exhaling, it's life or death. So it was definitely interesting to see it. And then just kind of seeing how they lived in Chicago and the family. It looks like they were pretty close knit from what I saw. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I like how they captured that moment with the cars and the clothes and even the way she walked. I mean, just how they walked and how they held their purses. I mean, it was pretty interesting to see that.
Yeah, and they did a great job with that aspect too, really taking you back to the time and what it meant and what it represented and how it impacted. All right, Doc.
Yeah, real quick, shout out to I just looked in the chat room and the numbers of the viewers right now. Shout out to the Queen 3 and King podcast channel. Y'all in the building in this motherfucker. We sure appreciate y'all. Y'all rolling deep today. One of the first things that jumped out at me, because somebody had mentioned this a few weeks ago, and I said the soundtrack brothers are back, because finally early on I noticed the music was on point and whatnot, and that was a big part of them showing the relationship between mom and son. I think Wilkes makes an excellent point. I think A-Trap makes a surprising point in the sense that it wasn't as heavy as he thought or whatever. It didn't, evoke or provoke certain feelings. I don't know that Ben feels the same way, because he said he started to slap somebody at his job today. But I think it's good, and and I like the fact that we both kind of were wondering the same things going into it. Is this going to be heavy? Am I going to need a break? Am I going to be able to get through it, et cetera, et cetera? Because that just goes to show there's so many different ways to do a film,
Right.
But I think her family should be proud at how they did this one, because she walks away, as far as I'm concerned, I walk away with her looking very classy, in terms of her wardrobe and how she carried herself and how well spoken she was. I mean, I think another level of class. And one of the things that I think we make a big assumption on a lot of times is that folks back in the old days, black folks back in the old days, we get a rep or we get a look, or people seem to think that we was just some big dummies back then.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And there were so many, and there were so many intelligent individuals back then, man.
Right.
And they had to get it out the mud intelligent, right? It wasn't at their fingertips like it is today,
Right.
So to me, an individual who was intelligent back then get more kudos from me than an individual that's intelligent today.
I just want to say something real quick. It's funny, A-Trap, or not A-Trap, I'm sorry. Doc is in that lane right there, because I was watching, I watched Emancipation with Will Smith, and there's a part in the movie that one of the men that are, I guess you could say, slave patrol or whatever, they're going after the runner, which is Will Smith, and he says, "Man, that's pretty smart of that stupid nigger." And well, the thing was, he said, the Ben Foster character said, he said, "Well, wait a minute," he said, "They're not as dumb as you think they are." And he said, he said a nigger with an idea need to be put down quick.
That's part of your Willie Lynch stuff, ain't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one of those things. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where
that's like, J. Edgar Hoover 101 right there.
Yeah,
man, you can't let them come together. You can't let that idea manifest, because, like he said, one gets free, then the next one gets free.
Yeah,
and the next
one
has an idea.
I always say, I don't always say, but frequently on these episodes, I say, number one, this ain't your mom and dad, it's Siskel and Ebert. And our purpose for reviewing movies is sometimes to spark conversation. And like A-Trap has so eloquently said from the very beginning, that conversation is not always agreeable in the sense that we always agree with the takes, but I think the takes are just as important, right? And as far as I'm concerned, hey, that's somebody has done a fantastic job of keeping us at each other's throats nowadays.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So that idea is killed in our own community before it even gets, going, so to speak, whatever. Right.
It's like the Tower of Babel.
Say what you say, about certain situations that are out there. The Dion situation may be one of them, right? Who knows? This Joker might be on to something, and there's so much information that we don't know. Right. But everybody got an opinion on, and before you know it, we had each other throats about this, and they running the end around on some other shit that we ain't even focusing on.
Right.
So they've done a fantastic job of got us focusing on shit that don't even matter.
And I just want to plug something in right there, what Doc just said. If anybody has a moment to watch the 60-minute interview with Deion Sanders, he literally said, if somebody else comes along, I have to take it. But like he said, he has a plan and he has a stage. We always talk about using your platform. Well, here's the moment. I get it. It looks like he's walking away. It looks like but he's left the blueprint to continue that success if anybody is daring to take up that mantle. So I think now he has a moment to purge forward, maybe, and start another.
Let me just say this. I have it on decent authority that a phone call or a conference call or a video conference was made with some heavy hitters in quote unquote Hollywood and in the sports arena, et cetera, saying, I got to bounce. But if you want this to go further with some resources, we can extend this thing out a little longer.
Right.
And all you heard was crickets chirping in the background.
Right.
These the same people we counting on to open our own studio so we can put out our own content, et cetera. Right. So again,
okay, I wasn't gonna say nothing. I tried my best.
I know you've been chopping.
Go ahead.
I know you've been chopping. Go ahead.
There is no blueprint for this. That's like saying what's the blueprint for the next Muhammad Ali? What's the blueprint for the next Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan is a phenomenon. Deion Sanders is a phenomenon. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. I don't have a disparaging word to say about Prime. Not one. But I disagree with everything. I disagree with how he handled it. And I'll go into more detail tomorrow. But there is no blueprint when you are Muhammad Ali, when you are Michael Jordan, when you are Deion Sanders, when you are LeBron James, because they are individuals that we haven't, and we'll never see again. We'll never see a dude. Deion Sanders changed the pay rate for his position. Not only was he an excellent ball player, he had charisma, he had personality, and he had it. So there's no blueprint when you have it. See, we can get another, no disrespect, we can get to the late great ancestor Hank Aaron. We get another blueprint to him because he was a gentleman, he was an excellent ball player, and you can duplicate that. We've seen it again. We've seen it. Barry Bonds, we've seen it. Reggie Jackson, we've seen it. But there's certain people in this world that when they show up, there is no duplicating it. Now I do have an answer for it, and I'm gonna talk about it tomorrow. But I do have I will take something of what you said. You said these are the people that we expect to lead the way. Kings don't lead the way. Sergeants lead the way. That's why you being a former military person, you can identify with this. You call a sergeant sir. He said, "No, I work for a living." We have to deal with the sergeants and the privates and the lieutenants. We don't have the captains, the majors, the generals. No, they're not gonna get anything done for us because their total existence depends upon us. Everything starts on the ground. The people up top, they're not gonna help us. So
that's all in how you see leadership. See, leadership does not require you to be moving your feet physically forward to lead. I promise you, I do it every day. Lead.
Yeah, but
my feet
like you said, you have the, I'm not degrading anything that you're doing, but you have the mentality of a sergeant as well. You get your hands dirty. Generals and captains and colonels, they don't traditionally get their hands dirty. And I personally believe that's the problem. We keep thinking these generals of the community are going to help. Perry, James. I heard about that same call. James, Perry, and others. They didn't say anything, but I actually have a plan that I've written out, and I'm gonna bring the plan to someone, and I know a couple people, and I'm gonna see what they're gonna do. But yeah, there's again,
I'm gonna say this, and then we can keep it moving. But I think the biggest thing is that I'm gonna say we, in a general sense, expect for people to stick around forever, and sometimes we look for a savior in people. Deion Sanders is a human. Do the same thing with pastors. Do the same thing with political leaders. They are not meant to be there forever. They are not meant to be your savior. So when somebody leaves, okay, if you want to mourn for a minute or whatever, you want to be upset for a minute, move on. We've been talking about this for too damn long now. Move on. He's gone. Move on. He did what he did. Deion has always been Deion. Deion has never changed. When was the time when you said, "Oh, Deion is different now"? Deion been the same Deion. Prime time, music videos, gold chains.
Yeah,
he's been the same person.
Amen.
So, like for me, it's a thing. It's a thing where
must be the money.
It's a thing where we look for these people to be saviors, and then we cry and whine about it. That's not it, man. There is no savior but Jesus. That's it. Ain't no other saviors. So stop trying to look for people to be saviors when they're humans. All right, let's move on.
Thank you.
All right, Pastor Dodd in the building. Thank you for tuning in. I got my parents in the building. Thank y'all for tuning in. That's our people, creative, innovative, intelligent, and genius. We are all of those.
Absolutely.
Keisha, how long you been watching this show?
Yeah, no kid.
How long you been watching this show?
Yeah, go turn in the Cisco and Eve.
Oh my gosh.
Stacey Dion Prime says yes.
Blue Street Freak in the building. What's going on, sweetheart?
Thank you for tuning in.
You got your knife.
Train Naturals. So she's gonna send it to A-Trap. I sent the Instagram to the group, so y'all can definitely reach out to her. She got pricing and stuff on her Instagram too.
Awesome.
We got another Dawkins in the building. Who's this?
Lakeisha Dawkins. I actually met her through Dawkins. That's my last name, my family's last name too. So we're not technically quote unquote related, but share the same name. So some of us connected. So What's going on, Lakeisha? Glad to have you, ma'am. She's sharp too. Sharp.
We got Brandy Dawkins. Just gave us a thumbs up. We got Tina Turner in the building, all the way from
Sing something for her.
Wherever she's from.
She from Garland.
Nutbush.
That's another Garland, Tina Turner. Yeah.
All right. So August 1955 is how they're kind of opening this up. They're in the store, and A-Trop, I did want to kind of come to you because you lived in Chicago. So in during this time, give us a sense of, I don't know, you were born during that time or not.
I was born 15 years later.
Wow.
Okay. But at least
wait a fuck no, man.
At least you give us some backstory.
I don't know if he was born around.
Wow.
What? Okay, man. Go, man.
Just ignore what I say. Go ahead. Give us a sense.
I mean, like I've told y'all several times, I think, like, remember at the very beginning of the forecast, and we were joking about food. We were talking about cuisine, and it was like, y'all was like, "Hey, Trey, what you know about that?" And I told y'all, Chicago is Mississippi.
I thought about that.
Northeast,
I thought about that.
Arkansas, North Mississippi, North Alabama. So, whereas I think Emmett understood the racial climate because we deal with that every day in Chicago to this very day. Y'all see Kirby who comes in the chat room, right? 3 years ago, they were leaving a church event on a Sunday night. They went into this neighborhood called Bridgeport, where the royal family of Chicago, the Daley family, they were mayors of Chicago for 70 of the last 100 years. Their family alone. And they went into that neighborhood, and this is right before COVID. Sat down, was eating food. They were coming from a church function, so they had shirts and ties on and jackets. And a team of white men walked into their store in this century 3 years ago and sat there and watched them with their arms folded until they finished eating. So the reason Mamie understood it, but Emmett didn't, is because Emmett dealt with that here in Chicago. The racial tension here in Chicago is I won't say the exact same, but it is very close to what it was, I'm assuming, back then. It's an ugly situation here in Chicago. The racial situation here in Chicago is the drunken uncle at Thanksgiving. You know, everybody knows there. He there. Everybody just waiting on him to act a fool. It's not like he may act a fool. It's like he may drink too much. He's gonna drink too much. I'm talking about, and I'm done after this. You walk out of Chicago White Sox Stadium. If you make a left and go through the viaduct and you are this complexion, you're getting bricks thrown at you. If you're on the bus going west, which is the same direction, left, they're throwing bricks at the bus. A reporter who was Jewish, and like maybe, I want to say 1998, he walked in that neighborhood and got beat to a pulp. He worked for the Chicago Tribune, the largest paper in the city of Chicago, one of the largest papers in the United States, newspapers in the United States of America. He was a Jewish man. He walked in that direction and got beat to a pulp. So this isn't, oh wow, I can't imagine. I can imagine, man. I don't have to imagine.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, and I'm done. My 21st birthday, 1991, I went to this place, these bars. April Showers knows them, Big Illinois, and Trey, she knows them too. We went on Rush Street because it was my first day, man, 21. I'm going to go get a legal drink now at a bar. My man Caruso Lockett was dancing on the floor. He was a dance mate. He was dancing on the floor with all the white girls. He got mad moves, and he's a modern dance major, and he got all the white girls on the dance floor. These white dudes stood right next to me, this close to me. If I'd have did this, I'd have hit him. They said, look at the nigga on the floor. So that's Chicago.
Yeah, and in this film, they kind of portrayed it as it was better there than it was in Mississippi. Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that I say when we keep coming up to this, and so many of these films that we have reviewed, and you cannot tell the story of Black people in this country and the struggles and the gains and not have Chicago heavily woven into the mix. period.
Absolutely.
They keep coming back. One of my notes was Chicago again. You know, they are in the mixed and in the middle of so many of our stories from a historical perspective.
Yeah. We appreciate you, April Showers, for tuning in. Raider Kev in the building. So a couple things. Number one, did you guys know that his nickname was Bo?
Bobo.
I didn't know that. I never heard it.
I didn't know that.
Vaguely remember, but it wasn't something that just at the forefront of my mind on it, though.
Yeah.
Remember that television series I asked y'all to watch called Lovecraft Country on HBO?
Mm-hmm.
They relived the Emmett Till story, and they never said his name was Emmett. They called him Bo on the series.
Oh, wow.
And the crazy thing is, instead of killing Emmett and putting the fan thing around his neck, they did it to a white woman on that show. Check it out, man. It's a powerful show, man. It's powerful.
I know, man. You done said it so many times, and I haven't seen it, but that's on my list. The other part, he had polio. Well, I had to actually look that up, but he had polio at 5, I believe is what it said, and that's how he had that speech impediment. Because you when I don't know if y'all noticed, he was singing that commercial, and Whoopi was like, "Yeah, you did that without stuttering or anything. You did it so smoothly." Yeah. So that was an interesting part that I didn't know either.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. I didn't know the polio part, and I was wondering why the hell she had said that, because they didn't have him come back and be stuttering in some other instances, which
there was only one time. There was only one time I noticed he was getting on the train, but that was it. That was the only time I noticed it. Yeah. He stuttered when he got on the train, but that was it.
Yeah. Hey, one thing about it, one of the lies that the white folks down there told. Well, one of the reasons they were able to get away with the lie is because, I don't know if this is actual or is it just urban legend. I've heard that the reason they were actually able to get away with the lie is because his mom used to tell him to whistle. When you get nervous and fired up, whistle to calm yourself down. Yeah. So that's why they were able to do the whistling thing and get away with it for so long, because it was natural for him to get riled up, and she'd go, just whistle, calm himself down, and then move forward. That's why they were able to deal with that.
Yeah. See, that was another thing. They did not portray him as somebody who needed to be calmed down for anything. He seemed to be calm, cool, and collected through this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, and you're right, April. That's A-Trap been saying that. Susie Ryan only lasted one season.
Because Misha Green, I sent y'all the map.
Yeah,
when she was like the white land, it's a powerful show. They've railroaded two of Misha Green. Shout out to Misha Green. She powerful, man. She the literary example of black women, because she put how powerful black women are on the table. Me and D-Grade used to do a show called Couch Potatoes, and we did each episode. And halfway through the series, you thought the man was the star, and then I started realizing every episode a woman saved the day. And I told D-Grade, and D-Grade being later, I told D-Grade, Chief Rocker, remember, I said, hey man, this ain't about men, this about women. And then at the end of it, the women saved the day. But Misha Green, she kills it, man. She got another show on WGN called Underground. It's another awesome watch. It's about how enslaved sisters on plantations used to use their feminine abilities to manipulate those people who ran the plantation, or the owners of the plantation, because I'm not calling them masters, or I'm not calling them slave owners. The owners of the plantations, they used to manipulate them with their bodies. And because those men were having children by those women were having children by those men, she also played on that. It was dope, man. That's another show that I think people need to grab hold to. Harriet was on there too.
Yeah. And the one thing I thought about throughout all of this is I thought about Ari, because she's 10. I mean, she's careless, carefree. If it was during a time like this, even if we go to the South now and she sees something or somebody calls her something, for her, it's not going to be like it's going to be just like Emmett Till. She's not going to connect the two. And even for me, when I was a kid, I wasn't able to connect the two, because I was a city boy, just like Emmett Till was from California. And then you come to North Carolina and you see things and you hear things. But I drew a direct parallel, because at that age, they're not going to be able to relate to it, especially him.
Right. I love it, man. Because Ari's been over here a few times, right? When you didn't have to stop by and we doing business, radio business or whatever. And what I love about Ari is that she is like that. She is fearless, okay, which I love it, okay. But I can see your struggle as a parent trying to manage that without quenching it, right? Exactly. And the thing is, the more comfortable she is, the more carefree she is. Right. Like she come to a point, she'll probably say, tell, ask me anything because I'm overwhelming trying to make her comfortable. Yeah, go on and get, y'all stifle her more in my house than I do. I'm like, go on to the pantry, get whatever you want.
We be like, hold on.
She be looking at me like, well, shoot, he done said I got the run of the castle. What you tripping about? But that's a very, very interesting aspect of this whole thing, man.
Yeah.
Because she knew, you could tell when he was getting ready to go, you could tell she knew she had that mother's intuition that this ain't right. I'm not feeling good about this.
This ain't gonna go
right.
This ain't gonna go well. I mean, she had it in her gut, and I mean, I would have been scared too. I mean, you think your kid does not know what the South is like. She tried to tell him. You can try to, but can you? How do you when you're actually in it?
Right.
How you going to respond, Wilkes?
I mean, even in that moment, it was kind of like he was, carefree, being himself, and in her mind, she's thinking, "That's great, baby, but I really need you to focus. I need you to, I need you to hear what I'm trying to tell you right now."
Right.
They're not gonna take, even when they were picking cotton. He's just like doing his thing, joking around and trying to make it lighthearted, and they up here, looking at him like he's crazy. But it's just one of those things where he's trying to live, he's living life, and of course, night and day, to a point. But down there, it's kind of like, hey man, you're gonna have to brass and tacks. You're gonna have to put it in line because it's crazy. Can't fly off the handle. And she was right to be worried, to be nervous. I mean, she knew it was just one of those things. He was going to be himself. He was going to be bombastic and, one of those things where he was going to be carefree and, enjoy life.
That's a 27-point word right there.
Can't win it on that one.
Yeah.
But I think that was a parallel that I drew there, and I could definitely feel it. I mean, you could feel it through the screen. You could travel back in time and just feel that. And this wasn't during a time where, number one, she could just get on a plane and get there real quick, or number two, she could call him real quick. So it's just, and you waiting on letters. Anything could happen from the time that letter makes it to you, in between all that time. So. Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to the main character, Mamie Till, who was in The Harder They Fall. Y'all remember she was.
You gonna give her a real name, or you gonna just call her
Danielle? Yeah, Danielle Deadwyler.
Okay.
She was in The Harder They Fall and A Jasmine's Blues, so she's been in 2 films. So it's the third one.
Oh yeah, she was that kind of one where we were trying to say is she kind of
family member or
like women? No, and in The Harder They Fall. She was the one that worked. She was the sidekick for whatchamacallit's character.
Was she in the dress?
No,
that's the one who didn't want to wear the dress.
Yeah, she didn't want to wear the dress. She had the gun. Yeah.
Bill
they did a fantastic job in her makeup on The Harder They Fall because she didn't look like she had the possibility of ever being attractive. But in this movie, she's gorgeous. Yeah.
Well, big shout out to her.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job. She did. Look for her star to continue to rise, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was trying to be politically correct as best I could. Wow.
A bull dagger?
A bull dagger.
Yeah, that's not proper, but okay. We know what you're talking about. She's saying it like our grandmamas would have said it, right?
Bull dagger.
Just say she's a clit muncher. That's okay.
Oh my God.
It's okay.
That's fine.
There it is. I was waiting for the signature look. Like, what did I do? What did I say?
I don't understand. Why not? That's what it is.
Let me do this. That's what I'm gonna do to cover myself, man.
You know, y'all just gave me an extra thing on my show tomorrow because I'm gonna get into it, but the Emmett Till thing, I'm gonna tie that into the Prime thing tomorrow. And it's not, again, I don't have one word bad to say about Prime. I don't like how he did it, but it's kind of because okay, it's a time honored tradition in Chicago. Senior, we used to always get sent down south.
Rug muncher.
And remember, y'all have heard me say this several times. There's been a disconnect with sending our children down south.
Yep, yes, true.
And this could have been the beginning of the end.
Oh, wow, good point. Yeah,
right,
man.
Because as a parent,
Prime thing, and again, I don't want anybody to think I have Deion Sanders. Is I was too old for him to be my hero. He only 2 years older than me. But Deion Sanders, I knew Prime when he was deep neon. When white folks tried to call him Neon Deion because he literally hates that name. Mm-hmm. But anybody that ever call him Neon Deion, he hates that Neon Deion thing. When they was calling him Neon Deion, I knew him then. So everybody's adults, but it's a few parallels that I want to draw tomorrow. And I didn't even think about it. I just wrote it down.
So, and speaking of grandmas, did y'all notice that was Whoopi Goldberg right away, or did it fool y'all for a second?
I didn't recognize.
No, I knew her right away, but the thing was that she did it so well. It was kind of like
I didn't recognize her right away, and even once I recognized her, that quickly went away, and I saw her as the grandma, man.
Yeah, and she didn't have a lot. She didn't have a lot in this movie. Yeah, but she played some vital. She had some vital lines.
Exactly right. It was critical. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot, but it was critical to the film.
To your point, I knew it was her because I knew she produced it, right? And I knew she was in it. But it's this scene when Whoopi and the father came over. I promise you, I was like, well, I literally said, who is this woman? And I was like, oh, this Whoopi.
Yeah. That was some good. That was some good humor there too. That was some good humor.
Yeah,
what did she tell him?
And that's
I called your wife,
Frankie Faison, right? You know, and that's a cat that's a staple in the Black film community too. You know, we see him in a lot of stuff. You know,
it's like LeBron James.
He does a fantastic job at it. Matter of fact, he's in this series called what's this series on Cinemax? I know Wilkes got to know it. I'm gonna look it up. Because I gotta tell y'all that. If y'all hadn't saw that,
the city joint,
You said it's on
Kevin Bacon.
No, not Kevin Bacon. I'll come back to it.
Something about the city. They in New Jersey, right?
Oh, he's talking about Kevin Bacon and that one guy. He's
That's not it.
Yeah, he's talking about that other movie with Kevin Bacon and the guy.
What's his name? Another dude that's like Frankie Faison.
Is he Attorney General?
He was in Ghostbusters. What's his name?
You said it's on Cinemax?
Yeah, I'll come back to it in a second.
What's the brother name from Ghostbusters? He puts you in the mind of Frankie Faison too. Half dead in a penitentiary.
Oh, gosh.
Let's not go back to that.
What's the man?
You talking about the guy, the Ghostbusters from the 80s? The Ghostbusters?
Banshee. It's called Banshee.
Banshee, yes. Banshee, yes.
Banshee.
It only had 5 seasons. It only had 5 seasons, right?
Ooh,
that's true right
there. That's the joint when old boy went to prison and got out and pretended to be a sheriff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I never finished that.
Frankie Faison played the bar owner.
Yeah.
You know, that he stopped at when he first got to that town.
I think it was coming on
Roadhouse kind of feel.
But he did a good job in this role.
Yeah, he did.
He definitely he didn't have a lot either, but he definitely did a good job. And I think the guilt part for the grandmother, because she was the one encouraging it. To A-Trap's point, when you send your kids to somebody else, you expect them to protect them at all costs, like no matter what. Which me and Wilkes was kind of talking about this. But when you're in a situation like this, which we got to talk about this part of, he had to make a choice, which preacher. So that was the uncle. and he was like, I had to make a choice. And it was either mine's or yours. And like that part is that's hard to say, that's hard to hear. But the biggest part, we can fast forward. We can go ahead. When she walked in there and she seen that gun, and she was in her head, she was like, no, he didn't. Right. Or no, he doesn't have a gun, and it's still sitting up on the wall, not used. So I wanted to definitely tap into that. Doc, I'm gonna go to you first.
Because then we got to remember that how much time had passed between that and when the event happened, right? Because again, getting to a particular location, and plus, like I said, just regular time that passed. But because she had not spoke to him up to that point, she couldn't. He had been calling, trying to apologize. By that time, she had seen his wife there at the funeral, who came to town and said he had to stay back to work the fields and stuff like that. Because from what I could gather, he was some sort of a sharecropper, or whatever. Because, I remember when Tia was still there and he's like, why y'all doing this? And why y'all picking this? What y'all do with this? Why y'all picking it? To sell it. And they were like, he don't know that this what his clothes made out of, et cetera, et cetera, so he had to stay and continue to harvest or whatever. But yeah, that aspect of it, man, like imagine if you was the family that they came to stay with you. Imagine if one of your nephews or nieces or something come to stay with you for the summer and they end up getting killed while they with you.
Right. Ooh. She handled that well too, because it could have went the whole other side. Well, she could have came to him like, nah, you got paid for what you did or didn't do. I mean, who knows how her emotions could have took her. Could have took her.
She gave it to him, though. She gave him everything. Did. She wasn't there to try to make him feel better about the situation.
Nah. He was like, you're not gonna sit down. She was like,
well, what did you and Wilkes come to? What conclusion did y'all come to?
In regards to
what's your move? What's the move you make?
Oh no, I think he did what you'd had to do, especially back then, given the tenor of.
No, I'm talking about what did they do? Wilkes and Ben.
What conclusion did we come to?
Yeah.
Oh no, from my conclusion, I mean it's hard to roll the dice on that one. I mean, you're not going you can go out gun blazing, but it's not going.
That's that whole thing where people will come say, if I couldn't have been no slave, I would have did this and I would have did that, and they are so clueless
you don't know
as to what they would have did. So same situation. He said he put it. He said it accurately. I had to make a decision. Because I knew if I stood up to try to protect this kid, they taking all us out, and it might not be today.
Right.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, the next day, the next week.
Yeah.
Now,
it's not just two men with a gun.
Right.
It's the whole county he going after.
Yeah. Right. And this is a film, so I don't know how much he did or how much he did or did not do. I would like to say that I would have did more, because it was almost like, all right. I mean, it's over. I'm not.
Hem you up, man. They're gonna hem you up soon.
I know. So I mean, but you don't know what you're gonna do until you're in that situation.
If anything, you're gonna push back regardless. You probably gonna push back. Some people.
I think he got a little pushback and saying, come on, man, you ain't got to do this and this. He just a boy, and et cetera, et cetera. He just didn't. Hey, where's that boy? Okay, he right here. He didn't just do that.
Once he pointed the gun in his face. I mean, at that point, it's.
What about you, A-Trap? I didn't catch yours on how you handle it.
I don't think he had another choice. I mean, me and my homeboy, we had a raw dog, buck naked argument about this, and he was talking about what he would do. And I mean, it's two books that registered in my mind when I was thinking of this. One of them is Rosa Parks' autobiography, and she talks about how her grandfather, when the Klan got riled up, her grandfather would sit there with the shotgun on his chest and two pistols on his lap, sitting at the door. And he said, if they come up in here, I'm going to kill as many of them as I can. And then you look at this other book that was written by this man who his father went to a Dr. King speech. And he said, yeah, that's good, Reverend King. You the man. You know, I love everything you said, but the nonviolent stuff gonna get you killed.
Mm-hmm.
And dude wrote a book about it, and it's books called. Well, actually, it's 3: the nonviolent stuff to get you killed, the Rosa Parks story, and We Shoot Back. So it's one of those things, you know. It's like you said, man. It's like I got a homeboy, Jesse James. He a Vietnam vet, and I remember it was a bunch of cats standing
That's
around.
Frank, brother, ain't it?
Huh?
That's Frank, brother.
No, it's black dude. But Jesse, I distinctly remember this around 2003. There was some brothers standing around talking about what they would do in the 9/11 situation. And Jesse just snapped. He was like, look, man, you don't know what you would do. He said, when last time you seen somebody get their throat cut and a gallon of blood? And I was like, because I was one of them dudes. I wasn't saying it, but I was one of them dudes that was, yeah, man, I'm going to action. I'm from the hood. And when he said, when have you ever seen somebody get cut from ear to ear? I was like, second Tuesday last week, I saw it. You know, February 1st. I saw that, you know.
Plan's always intact until it actually go down.
Yeah, well, see,
you know, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Till you get hit. In fact, an interesting aspect of this is that, you know, if the same thing took place a year later or 6 months later to the neighbor is going to give more pushback. The neighbor might shoot now because they had the benefit of seeing clearly what was going to take place if they didn't.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? See, I'm sure that guy also had to think to himself, he may come back with his ass beat, you know, or something like that. Or, you know, they may put him in the, you know, jail for, you know, a few nights or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But he probably couldn't have gone to the point to say they finna get ready to kill his ass. You know, now the next time it happened, the next somebody, they probably gonna fight a little bit more.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you think you know what you made of.
Right.
You don't know. And you know what? I wonder, okay. I don't want to really do this gender thing, but I wonder if it's different if it was Emmett Till.
A female kid that's getting taken as opposed to a male.
I think he'd put up I think he'd laid one of them down for Emmett Till.
Another valid point, you know.
And also, I think deep down, I don't know what his son told him, because it didn't seem like his sons told him really what happened.
They did.
I think kind of deep down they were like, well, this is Emmett, and then some of this he put on himself. I think he might have had some of that down in him too. Like some of that you can't do that. Yeah. So I think some of that you might have had that feeling.
Yeah. Would he have done differently? So to that same A-Trap's point, which is a valid one, if this had been a female kid, he probably puts up a bigger fight. What if this has been one of his own kids?
He probably
put up a different fight.
He gonna raise hell at that point.
Yeah,
because
he probably would have got shot right then on the spot. He would have. That was his own son.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have gotten a chance to retaliate.
Yeah, because my family is in Chicago because of this. My dad's family. My father's my father because of this situation.
And ironically, his family ended up moving. Remember, when she came for the funeral, she was like, I'm not going back to money, you know, which is back to Mississippi, basically. And the rest of the family was coming, you know, shortly after. Mm-hmm. So that A-Trap, I would imagine your family is one of many who probably did the same thing.
Oh yeah.
No. My big mama, my father's grandmother was accosted, and my grandfather and my Uncle Bunk put it on a dude, and they had to be on the first thing smoking to Chicago.
Yeah. Now the scene at the store. So this was the Bryant store. It seemed like this was either a black neighborhood or a black store, because they said this was where blacks went to the store. So I'm like, was this in a black neighborhood? I don't know what sense did y'all get.
But I mean, they were sitting out front playing cards at the table, like, you know, the types of things that you would be used to seeing in a black neighborhood or a black owned business. But yeah, they, I was confused about that from the jump. Why y'all sitting out in front of the store? But something had to happen for it to be, or there was some significance because, again, the majority, if not all of their patrons were Black. So maybe it's just a known thing that they're like, that's the colored store, or whatever the case may be. That could have been it. It could have been just on a corner down from the rest of the stores. That could have been the one store on the entire street. Look, y'all can't go anywhere on here, but we know y'all still need some stuff, so this gonna be the store.
Yeah, kind of like in Rosewood. Remember, Angelina Jolie's dad, when he was molesting that girl, he had a store that only Black people came to.
Yeah, but I think if we really think about it, most stores in the hood not owned by us.
Nope.
So I mean, like to me, that was more like she owned the store, but this wasn't her quote unquote neighborhood.
Right?
She came here.
Why would you own, like, when you know what it is? Why would you own? I don't know. I guess it's a way of income, but why would you own a store there when you know?
But you can only get great value stuff from that store though. You can't get
high top.
and the crazy,
don't have glory greens in that one.
Right.
The crazy part about it is how they cowered. And when she was walking out of the door, she finna go get a gun, and everybody ran. It was like,
and once again, why are you outside the store in the devil's den playing damn cards and shit?
Right. That was unique.
Like what?
Now, and kind of what I was saying earlier, it was still suspense. My heart was still beating. I mean, obviously you knew what was going to happen, but it was like seeing the scenes and how it played out. Now I even wonder, now to your point you made, the whistling, I'm even wonder, did he whistle?
No. She admitted last year that she lied about everything.
That's right. Yeah.
All he did was come in there and buy something.
All he did was come in there and buy something. And that was the one thing I had an issue with the movie. That was the only thing I had an issue with the movie, because they still portrayed it as if he did something wrong.
I think that he said, "Wow, you look like you're beautiful," or whatever he said, gorgeous,
like
whatever he said. And then she said, he said, "Yeah, something like you're beautiful. You look like a movie star." She goes, "You what?" So she was looking for some trouble then, and he didn't repeat himself, or he just showed her the picture on his wallet of the movie star. You look like her, or whatever. I thought she was gonna give him some trouble when he stuck his hand in the candy jar without no gloves.
That's what I thought.
Nothing like that. I thought that was going to be an issue.
But I think so too. She knew, she had a sense he wasn't from there.
Right.
So she was watching him from the jump as soon as he walked in. Yeah. And why didn't any of his family members walk in the store with him?
They checked. That's why the older one, when he noticed he was missing, he was like, "Go check on her with him," whatever. Yeah. And somebody was in there at the beginning, wasn't it? Like when he walked in there.
Yeah, he walked out and got his stuff.
Somebody was
just in and out real quick, and then that's when Bo with it. Go ahead, Wilkes. You were gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say I think that scene was done to show what, or not what, but how Emmett Till came off to her. I think at that moment they were showing him through her eyes, like, oh, he's out of control. He's whistling at me. How dare him have this picture in his wallet of a white woman? She don't know if it's real or fake or where it comes from, which is a department store picture. But I think in that moment, that's what I got from it, because just like H-Rap said, and we heard, she said openly that he didn't whistle at her. So why would you put this in the movie? But then I thought, well, it's probably because she's looking, this is how I see him, like, oh, he's an aggressor. Oh, he is attacking. Like, she's getting that story ready to, I don't like that he's so carefree and he's not abiding, he's making eye contact with me. I don't like that he's not abiding to the rules.
His head isn't down and he just handing the money and walking out.
That's what I got.
His head is up. And
there you go. And we got to remember, this is quote unquote based on a true story. So of course they're may take some liberties and whatnot, and how they tell the story, and there may be some sensationalism, et cetera, and they take some creative liberties, right? So some of the details are going to be, what's going to sell better. But I think, and it's also, we got to remember that it is art, so it's up for interpretation, right? And I think Wilkes, both Wilkes and H-Rap done brought out some fantastic points, man, on how to see this movie. And to me, they are the types of things that if I'm recommending somebody to watch the Fourcast, it's like we think of some shit you ain't thinking about when watching the movie, you know. And especially if you really like a movie and you know the Fourcast is going to review it, you need to be watching that review, because we might even give you some more stuff that you need to consider, you know.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, we can even possibly make your movie watching experiences going forward different, because we can show you how what appears to be a piece of trash still has some redeeming qualities.
That's some nuggets.
So you didn't just for example, we're gonna teach you how not to waste your 2 hours to be able to always get something out of a movie or whatever the case may be, you know.
Yeah, just like Doc, like last week, Doc was in the military, and that movie last week, I mean, that was in Doc's wheelhouse. And you know, even H-Rap, you know, joining in or whatever, you know, I don't know if he made a comment I know he was out, but I mean, there's even some things like with this, like H-Rap and you know, what's some other one like Malcolm X, anything we've watched, that you know, it's always, you know, I'm like, man, I'm going for H-Rap for this one, you know, or I'm going
with King Kong versus Godzilla. He was able to relate to King Kong real close. Absolutely. And especially
you better duck.
Chicago native, you know, so right up his alley. So, absolutely.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll dive deeper into Till.
I got time to pee.
Oh yeah. Not in the wife.
Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, W-I-Z-E.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central.
You are now tuned to BS3 Network.
All right, we are back. Huge shout out to Cole Johnson, who did all of those commercials. The guy is a genius and a mastermind when it comes to putting those together.
Yeah, he tight.
All right, so Till, which it's available on YouTube, Amazon, Apple TV. I think it's still in theaters. So
you're gonna have to make a decision though. You're either gonna watch this or you're gonna get Christmas presents for your kids.
Right.
You ain't doing both.
You ain't doing both. Raider Kev with a comment. I disagreed. I still haven't seen Pootie Tang in a good light. I was talking about how we
redeeming qualities.
Redeeming qualities and stuff. All right. I thought one go ahead.
Your mom.
Shots. But I thought a good kind of aspect that they added is it was like 3 days from the time that happened. I don't know how real or true that was, but it was almost like there was like we good. You know, nothing's gonna happen. It's been 3 days. You know,
right?
You don't have to worry about telling your parents or nothing like that. We all good. Yeah. So I felt like that they gave you a sense of like, okay, we can calm down. It's all good. And, you know, the rest of your trip's going to be fine.
You know, I thought they were going to get him when they went to town. You remember the night before they went to bed? He was saying, hey, we got to get up early in the morning so you can go mail that letter to your mama. So I thought that's when they were going to get him, because they had already indicated that they weren't going to recognize his face, because he wasn't from around there. So they couldn't necessarily just pinpoint easily, this is who that was, so that's probably why the 3 days took place. They were trying to gather that information, who he's staying with, he was in town. Oh yeah, I saw that boy when they came to sell their last load of cotton. He was on the truck with them, and I think I heard him say something from the fact that he's from here, or he just here for the summer, whatever. They pieced it together. But as the film unfolded, I thought they were gonna get him that morning when he was going to mail that letter to his mom.
Yeah. But and again, the suspense was still there. We know what happened. We know what the end result was.
Right.
But another point, so when the truck pulled up, and they were dumping him into the back of it.
Right.
I don't know if y'all seen that chubby dude. It looked like he had a Fat Albert outfit on. He had blue jeans and a red shirt. Did y'all see that guy?
I didn't pay that.
He was the help, but the dude looked like Fat Albert. But anyway.
Now, what about this aspect of it? They talked about black dudes being on the back of the truck and helping because they worked for the guy who was involved. So they were basically like they made it seem like the black people, 2 or 3 black guys, was helping do the beating them up and stuff like that. Had you heard that before, A-Trap?
I had heard it. I definitely heard it. It's just it goes back to this one law. I've mentioned it before: meritorious manumission.
If you can make life easy on a white person,
you get your freedom, and you keep them off you, and it rings true to the day. Like y'all said it earlier. How do you get to this point? This can never be repeated, because the internet ruined it for bigots. Because they don't, back then I'm assuming you assumed that white folks outnumbered us. But in the state of Mississippi to this very day, and it's in 1949, and the state of South Carolina, we outnumbered them. So you never knew, so that's another reason for the fear. Because like look in the courtroom saying you got 8 or 9 brothers and sisters, and you got like 65 white folks.
Right.
And then when you go into town, it's just you versus a town full of white folks. So you probably always assume that you are outnumbered.
Yeah. And he like nigger. I got about 8 spots for you over here. And the rest of you guys in the back.
Right.
Y'all got to stand up. It wasn't even like we ain't got no seats for y'all. Y'all got to stand up.
So let me ask y'all something. Based on the fact that Emmett Till went to the country for the summer, they were calling it a vacation for him, right?
Yeah.
To go see his cousins and whatnot. Did any of y'all go to the country as youths?
Oh yes.
And that's another movie tie back. That's why we're so good here, because I said youths. And if you can name that film,
My Cousin
Bennett.
With
youths. What is a youth, son?
Herman Munster said that.
Right.
He was the judge, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the judge. And Joe Pesci was the guy who said youths in question. What the fuck is a youth? So again, did any of y'all go to the country as youths?
Yeah,
I did once.
Yeah.
Right down
Where
80.
was yours at, A-Trap?
Mississippi.
You remember what city in Mississippi?
I don't have a clue.
All right. What about you?
5.
Okay. What about you, Wilkes? You went to the country in the summers?
Right down the highway.
To Mahia?
Terrell, Texas. Or Terrell and Gilbert.
Okay, but at the time, that was to go to Terrell was a trip, right? Now it's 12 minutes up the road.
It felt like forever.
Did it? Yeah.
It felt like
now I live literally like 12 minutes from Terrell.
Right.
That's the next exit up now.
Yeah, going to Terrell, they're like, God, dog, we got to go to Terrell. So.
Oh, trust me. I got a better question. Times, I'll be like, man, how long is this ride? Like,
I got a better question. Y'all being from this, you two, because Ben was from out west.
Yeah.
Did they ever send people up north?
Hang on a second. Before we ask that, let's see if Trey ever went to the country when he was a kid, and then we'll answer A-Trap's question.
Hickory, North Carolina, yeah.
Okay, which would have been considered the country.
Yeah.
A-Trap, I'm sure that took place, right? Like they sent him to the city. I don't think it's as prevalent as the other way around. Right. And typically some of that may be because theoretically the people in the city had the financial resources to do so. The folks in the country might not have had the financial resources to send nobody nowhere.
It was people coming to them.
I can't speak on that. I mean, it may have, like you said, that may have been something that happened, but I know, like for me, I mean, I couldn't wait when June, July rolled around. Oh, I couldn't wait to get down to Terrell.
Yeah. I think that, and again, the fact that we've lost that as a community, which A-Trap's going to talk about tomorrow on his show, is sad, really, because even though instances like this shows the ugly side of it, I bet you if we could interview people who used to have to go do that on a regular basis, they would say a huge part of their makeup into making them the person they are today came from those summers being spent with grandparents or uncles or aunts or cousins or whatever the case may be.
You know how many
it's a forgotten time in our society, man.
Yeah. One thing that they used to use that go down south thing for was to hide pregnancies.
I couldn't let you finish it. That's right.
You would go down when you about 4 or 5 months pregnant when you ain't showing.
Yeah.
When you came back with your grandmama's sister baby.
Right. There you go. There you go. Especially if you were heavily involved in the church community, they were going to say,
they got you can't have your sister.
So you saying they would go down there and have a baby.
Go down there and have a baby, come back. Man, how many girls I know who came back their grandmama's sister baby, but they had to babysit their grandmama's sister baby all the time.
Yeah, another failed opportunity for the church to show how forgiving God is. You talk about how forgiving He is. You got a perfect opportunity to forgive somebody and love the hell out of them.
I shouldn't have to send the body away and come back with 2 bodies.
Yeah.
and the bigger conversation is whose kid was that? Was it the pastor's?
Usually, yes.
Woo!
Or the deacon. Depending on which one pulled out first, but
Pastor died. I didn't say that.
That's fact. Oh, it's fact.
Pastor died. I didn't say that.
I grew up in the country. But we were sent to the
country.
That makes sense.
Heck yeah. Falling off of hay rides and chasing chickens and trying to catch hogs all muddied up. Man, please.
Love it.
All right. So the thing that stuck out to me, or one of the things that stuck out to me the most, was the guilt. The guilt that preacher had, the guilt that his wife had, the guilt that the sons had. But you don't really feel that guilt until they ran into Mamie, obviously, because then they would talk about it amongst themselves. Then when they seen her, they was like, we can't even explain it. We sorry. And she at any point did she say, nah, it's y'all niggas' fault. It's y'all fault. Like, I mean, she handled it, I mean, the best way you possibly could. And she was like, no, you got to look. You got to look. I mean, I think her thing was, it happened, but you need to look and see him. You don't walk by and imagine that you don't want to see it, because this is what happened to my son. Go ahead, A-Trap, you can say something.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the place that they had the funeral at. I met a dude who was he was here in Chicago a month ago. Put his name up in my phone. We exchanged information. His name is Bishop Marcus Walls from Detroit, Michigan, and they made the church that their funeral was at a national landmark.
Yeah, which I agree, and they did a great job in this film. Changing his face and altering it and everything that they did. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't touch what the actual imagery was, but it gave you a pretty close sense of what he looked like.
I want to commend Brother Mosley, man, because they stayed together until he died in 2003.
That's the husband.
That's right. That's right.
The boyfriend at the time.
Then
he married her. He married her 2 years later, and I want to commend him for that, because that's and I want to commend him and condemn the media that conducts themselves in the exact same way. My child was murdered. My child was brutally murdered and thrown into a river, and a fan was tied around his neck so he could stay at the bottom of the river. And when the truth comes out, y'all don't want to talk about my dead child and the murderers of my child. Y'all want to talk about that I got a divorce.
Right.
Yeah, I've been married twice, but what people don't know, I don't know if you guys know this, Emmett Till's dad was killed in France in the exact same fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't
touch on that too much. Because I've seen pictures of the two of them, real pictures, but I didn't know the relationship, how long it was, if they were together or what. So
that was supposedly raped a French woman, murdered.
Same thing. It's the exact same situation.
Oh,
it was history repeating itself. And again, that's why when I think it was Doc who said what he said about going down south, and I was like, oh, that's what made me trigger and add something to my show tomorrow, and that's what's going,
Great. What did they say about the second husband again? I think they briefly mentioned it. Was it just a straight divorce type situation?
It's just a straight divorce.
Was that Bradley? Was his name Bradley?
Bradley. That was Bradley. Right. Mosley is the final husband.
So basically, before Emmett Till's murder, she was known as Mamie, just Mamie Bradley, right?
Mamie Bradley.
Yeah.
During that in sequence, she was Bradley.
Yeah, but then after everything took place, and I guess she started going on some talking circuits and whatnot. Yeah, that's when she changed it to.
She was Till-Bradley. Then she went from Till-Mobley, Bradley Mosley. Till-Mobley. Mamie Till-Mobley.
But now did she? Because they didn't present it like this, but did she have Till as part of her name prior to? I didn't think so. So they did make it seem like she added the Till, the hyphenated Till, as part of her last name after the events, so they would know who she was, and I would imagine so his memory was able to live on.
And that's
even more so.
And I agree with you, A-Trap. I definitely commend them, brother, because for her to go through that, that's nobody would ever want to imagine having to go through something like that. But
a lot of dudes
stuck
would
by
have
her.
chunked out.
Yeah, he stuck by her, and when she said, "I'm going by myself," I know he was pissed because it was like, "You mean I'm gonna let you go down
she was,
to this place by yourself?"
The epitome of a strong black woman, and you gotta have. Hey, if you ain't a strong black man, you can't handle no strong black woman.
Big Illy 73 Xmas flick called.
Whoa.
I got you after Christmas volume.
That's right. And then after that, it's gonna be, I'll pay you back when my income tax check come in volume 1.
Right.
Yeah.
That'll be volume 2, yeah.
And then volume 3, come get your funky little old $20.
I'm
telling you, man, you had that funky in it. That's when the furniture started moving.
But man, this was this is like it was glossed over because it really had nothing to do with the actual story. But think about this: Mamie Till or Mamie Mosley is sitting in the room with Medgar Evers' wife, who knew 7 years later they be rowing the same boat.
Yeah, man.
Wow, that part was great in this film. When they first got in the car and it was like, what you did, showing that, the open casket, that impacted a lot of people.
Oh,
and then it's showing him chasing the guy with the gun, the witness. That was another, you got to see like the beginnings of Medgar Evers. And then the other guy, his name was Theodore Roosevelt Mason Howard. He was the mentor to Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer.
He was the man. Jesse Jackson.
Think about this. Let me just give you. So now, A-Trap and Wilkes done came out with some points you never thought about that I thought was spectacular. Here's another one, right? Medgar Evers might not have been Medgar Evers had Emmett Till not gotten lynched.
It's true. No, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, we know he was already in the NAACP or whatever and doing what his thing was. But what if this doesn't happen and he just phases out for him and he doesn't he doesn't become the powerhouse that he became, Right. So that's another aspect.
Yeah. It not only just sparked a civil rights movement. I mean, it was the tipping point for everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a stroke of genius, man. That's a divine thing for her to be given the idea or the inspiration. I know this would normally be a closed casket, but y'all got to see this.
Y'all got to see this.
You know,
because she said y'all wouldn't believe. Nobody would believe me what I saw.
I mean, how many times have we not something like this, but how many times have we seen certain maybe peaks? I mean, you had a Trayvon Martin, it sparked the movement.
Mm-hmm.
Then along the way, there was so many moments there where it was just like, okay, this is getting out of control. Then George Floyd comes along, and like, here we go again, another pivotal moment. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I've heard somebody say it's like the ancestors are trying to get your attention, and this is what's happening, and this is what needs to be put into place to start this ball rolling, because it's like it doesn't stop here. What was it? It was, I can't think of the one with the lawyer we were watching. I think what is it in my name or what's my name or something like that, where he was talking about the ball is rolling, but we don't need the ball to roll back. We need a little bit more push to send that thing on and get it going, so it becomes very significant moments in history. I mean, you could put pins in those moments.
Because I mean, if it was a closed casket, who knows?
That's right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Once again, we didn't even talk about this. Look at how when they reported it, they showed the white family. They didn't seem fazed by it. They were just kind of like, oh, it's another dead black person.
They were trying to say it wasn't even him.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was saying it was. Like they were trying to. Was this the ring he was wearing?
Well, you couldn't even recognize the body.
Right. Yeah. And how it changed from that white family, and then it was going into that black family. How they were like, the husband grabbed his daughter's hand, and it was kind of like, we got to come together in this moment. But then that white family, it was just stark differences. Like it was kind of like, oh well, this is just the news for the day.
Yeah, because the white family, they don't see themselves in that. We see ourselves. We could say that could be me. That could be Ari. That could be any of us.
Absolutely.
Like that's the point. That was a great.
I thought that was
a great point
to see that.
So I know we got to get to the reviews, final thoughts and stuff. We're short on time, but I just want to ask real quickly, what was y'all's toughest scene? Now, while y'all have a moment to think, I think for me, the toughest scene was when they unloaded the casket box from the train, and she was sitting in the wheelchair waiting on that to take place. Which she was only sitting in the wheelchair because they knew you're gonna get weak, maybe drop down to the ground. So whenever they did that, and she started crying, saying, "Get him out of that box. He can't breathe." And then when she said, "Lord have mercy, tell me what you want me to do." Yeah. When I say, if you ain't experienced that kind of pain in life,
absolutely.
Your journey is at its infancy,
right?
Because until you've experienced that kind of pain,
right,
that kind of pain puts a whole lot of things in life into perspective. So that was my toughest scene. What about y'all?
I have to go with Doc on that one, and the only reason not the only reason. There's many reasons. One. Like I said, I watched Emancipation. There was a black soldier in the trenches. He was in so much pain, he was calling for his mom. When George Floyd was on that ground,
right, man,
calling for his deceased mother. Let me tell you something. When you have a mother, I kept playing back that one that we watched when she said, "Oh, there's nothing like the anger of a white Southern." I was like, no, there's nothing like a black mom that has cried too many times or is crying and burying her child because of ignorance that has taken place.
Hatred. Yeah.
When you're calling for your deceased mother, let me tell you something. That's heavy right there. And we all know you only get one mama, and that's it.
Yep.
But when you're crying for your son, get him out of this casket. He can't breathe. Yeah. At that moment, she's not even real. She doesn't even want to relate to the fact that I know this is the remains of my son, but he's still my son. And in my head, he is still, his legacy is living. He's breathing. To me, he's everything. So yeah, that's a significant. Oh man, that part was. Oh gosh, yeah, that was heavy. Yeah. That was heavy, man.
For me, shout out to you, D. Great. I don't know if I didn't shout you out early. We appreciate you for tuning in. Your support as always. The sounds of him being tortured. That, like, you can't at 14 years old. It's 10 against 1.
Right.
There's no possible way you can defend yourself or get away, and it's ultimate torture. Like, for me, that was hard to hear. That was a lot.
Well, the hardest part.
Yeah, there you go.
The hardest part for me was the at A&R Rayner funeral home. That's a prominent funeral home in Chicago to this very day.
Oh wow.
When she told him to pull the sheet back, and she had to stand there and look at her son bloated with half his head shot out the back, and she just stood there. And homeboy Mosley was standing there with her, and they took the picture. That's an actual picture too.
Yeah.
An actual picture.
Hit magazine, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then when she, that scene bled into her walking out in front of A.R. Rayner and saying, "Yeah, that's my son in there, and that smell you smell, it's my son."
Yeah.
And I'm glad they showed it because I was worried they weren't going to show. Unfortunately,
that's what I was thinking too. They started the camera down below.
Yeah, I was hoping that
I was like, we all need to show it as much as we possibly can.
I felt like that was a moment where they kind of had an eye level that you couldn't see.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was one of those, we're preparing you for what you're about to see next kind of thing. It's like, if she had the courage to show it in an open casket, we're going to show it in this movie. We're going to depict how this went. So yeah, no. And, growing up, as a little kid, I remember my cousins having a Jet, I believe. I don't know if it was an Ebony magazine or Jet magazine, whatever it was, but on the coffee table, I kind of stumbled upon Emmett Till at a young age because I couldn't understand. My mom was explaining to me, like, why am I looking at this 14-year-old that, why is he so disfigured? I didn't know at the time. I was probably maybe 9, 10 years old when I saw that book on my cousin's coffee table, and just seeing that face and those images, and it was just at that, like, it always stuck with me, but I never knew the rest of the story or how it became to that point. But my mom, through the years, explaining. But yeah, it's always significant to see that. I won't ever forget when I first saw those images.
I saw it in 1982 for the first time in Miss Ethel Adams' class. And they had just, that's when they first started talking about it nationally again.
Yeah.
And, Miss Adams educated us on it. And she pulled out the Jet magazine. She showed us the pictures. She literally passed each one of those, because there wasn't no copyists back then. So she passed the magazine around the class and had us all look at it. And we were like, it was, I remember that day. I remember where I was sitting in that class. That jacked me up, man.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember when I first seen it, but I was just like, that can't be real. I mean, that just couldn't possibly be real, and it was. Yeah. But one thing I wanted to point out, a couple things actually. The black reporter, you'll notice when she came up, she was like you. Like she knew, even though she wasn't, I don't know if she was like, all right, this is going to be more for a movement, but I think she knew she had to pick him out of all of them. She had to pick the black reporter and not the white reporter.
Right.
So I felt like that was good. And then, funerals, man, just a side note, is big business. I think we talked about this on one of the shows. You got to pay for everything. So anybody that's burying anybody, you got to. That's why that funeral home is still there to this day.
And just a side note, we've been talking about this, and this started with the comedy special we talked about. Asked her if she had insurance. We talked about having an estate, having a will, having life insurance. So it circles back. It's all connected.
Now I don't know. I mean, Raider Kev, I don't know if you've seen it yet. You can buy it if you want, but you may want to rent it. But either way, I mean, you got options. And that's a great idea. Sponsorships from the streaming networks. Well, I'm gonna have to cut back on what I say sometimes. We could do that. But the sounds of this torture hurt my soul. I began to think this could be my son, my grandson, even just thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, at 14, and the look on his face was just like, what I do? Like, what is?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
What are you so angry? And he was, and the fact, and again, I thought about Ari when he was like, yeah, I don't put my shoes on without socks. I mean, you could just tell he was not. He still didn't really understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And who knows? He may have never really understood what was going on. He never really.
Oh no, they weren't going to explain it to him. All they know is, this happened. That's all I need.
Disrespected somebody that looked like me. All right. One last thing: the BB gun the kid shot. Is that anybody know if that's true?
Yeah, into the courthouse. Yeah.
Okay, because that was.
I had never heard that. I don't know.
That if it wasn't pins and needles when they were walking in there, that took it to a whole nother level.
Right.
And that made me think of the gentleman hanging and the kids all standing around.
Yeah.
That made me think of that image. When that kid shot that baby gun.
What kind of tripped me out was not really tripped me out. It was like a prequel to another movie. You saw the developing of a Medgar Evers, and you saw why Medgar got killed. But for those who don't know, they shot Medgar from a block away with an elephant gun because Medgar used to carry that thumper with him at all times. Because he was ex-military, he's a World War II veteran. So you saw that Medgar wasn't scared of nothing. So
even the pat down at the courthouse, he wasn't.
Yeah, he stared him down like what?
Yeah, like, man, please. Yeah.
So a couple of last things. We already know what the verdict was. It was the whitest of white juries ever. White shirts, as white as possible. And I'm not even gonna call her name, but that lady just went in a straight up story time. I mean, like you telling a story like it's you just writing a novel about a whole bunch of stuff that didn't even happen. But we know. And so at the end, I just wrote, you know what happened, but it still hurts. Anybody that watches this film, you know what happens, but it's gonna still hurt you. And I think she said freedom for everyone or freedom fails. I felt like that was a powerful statement. So let's get to our final thoughts and Mike rating. We're gonna go to A-Trap first.
I'm gonna give it 4. Great movie, great content. I liked everything about it, and it was powerful. And the only thing I hate about this entire story, the thing that I hate the most about this entire story, and it's like reverse poetic justice. Brian is the only person still living.
Yep.
Right.
Like car accidents. Normally the drunken driver is the one that normally ends up surviving.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, 4. I don't have any complaint. Only thing I got complaints about is they didn't, at the end credits, they didn't let them know she confessed. And she, they should have put her out there.
Yeah.
And the whistling part, they should have did that. But I mean, that's being a little too picky on, and I ain't gonna go there. It is what it is.
Real quick, Trent Altrell says I went every summer. I think she's Memphis, Tennessee. They sent us on the Greyhound bus. I still watch that movie now. I don't know, it's something that we mentioned earlier. All right, so, Pootie Tang, right?
No, man.
Doc.
Yeah, I'm at 4 stars at well. That's where I was. I kind of teetered a little up and down, throughout the series of this episode, but I think a 4 is a solid rating. The things that they did with some of the camera work, one of the ones that I remember is that the camera work as the mom was being told about Bobo's body being found. I thought the camera work they did in that particular scene was phenomenal. And then same thing at the end of the movie when she walked into his room and the way they played with the lighting when the vision of him showed up. Yeah. And then how they used that to transition out of the entire movie. So again, well done cinematically. And so, like I said, I think it's a solid 4.
All right, Wilkes.
I was teetering on a 4 and even a 5. 5 because it set things in motion, but we can call many things a 5 that set things in motion. But I would say a 4, and there were, and like to Doc's point, there were moments that I was hoping that she would. I say the ghost of him, but you would see the glimpse of him. Like when she was at the store, I was hoping they were going to have him open the door, and he was going to be standing there, like through her eyes. But she recalled him walking through the store.
Yeah.
And then there were moments she saw him in the corner in the room. She remembered him. She remembered him as my son.
Right.
You know, it's like, I'm not going to remember you as a victim of a hate crime. I will voice you as a hate crime, but I will still remember you as my 14-year-old son. So yeah, 4 for me. Like I said, I was teetering. I was going to a 5 because, like I said, it set the ball rolling on a lot of things that are still huge and significant. But I mean, like I said, we've watched other things that I could say that too. But like Who Killed Malcolm X? I mean, I could say that was a 5, and it started some things. So I'd say a 4 for me. But I enjoyed it. Also, the scene, and since we're talking about cinematic play, I like the scene how they kept the camera on her and her boyfriend when they were walking in, and the camera never moved away. It just kind of trailed as they were walking. It kept their faces in view and showing the intensity of the moment. I love the colors that they put off. I mean, it was like a time capsule. I mean, the cars, the clothes, the way they spoke. I mean, it was great. No, I enjoy it. I'll give it a 4.
Yeah. So I didn't really have a rating in mind really until now as we're talking about it. And I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I think there was some things that they could have did differently. It's like based on a true story. They got to make it, theatrical.
Right.
But I think for me, it's a 4.5 because I was still on the edge of my seat, knowing what happened. But it's the way you tell the story, and the way they told the story in kind of through her eyes, which you don't really. Hadn't been a story like this, at least from what I've seen, kind of showing her, unless it was maybe like a documentary. But this was more of a film, acting well done. Nobody seemed to be halfway or not. Didn't do well, and it was some unknown actors in this too that I really haven't seen. The guy that played Medgar Evers, never seen him before. So I mean, okay, I haven't seen him in anything. So I feel like it was well done. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5. And definitely see it if you haven't already. You can rent it, or it may be still in theaters. Or if you wanna buy it, you can do that as well.
Yeah, or you can come over here and chip in on this because I decided to go ahead and buy it in case. One of my family members was over here or something and wanted to watch it. But
I got Google money. I can buy it again.
Yeah, I still got about 15 hours left on the rental. So you want to slide through tomorrow sometime? Just hit the ring doorbell. I'll let you know.
I'm not making chocolate cakes, but if you want to stop by, I mean, you can. I rented it. I don't want to watch it.
All right. So next week we're gonna take it on a lighter point. All right, we did some back-to-back heavy hitters. We're gonna go a throwback edition Hollywood shuffle.
Oh, okay. About to say that the one you had on the list, that ain't no light.
Yeah, I know.
Light.
Oh yeah, you weren't here. Yeah, we kind of switch it up.
Okay,
so we do Hollywood
like light. That ain't light.
What was the next one that he switched from?
Descendant.
I can't think of it. Descendant. Yeah.
Oh gosh, no, that ain't light.
I was like, light.
No, that shit ain't light.
So we're gonna do this one next week. We haven't done a throwback in a little while, probably since I can't even remember.
Crooklyn?
Nah,
no, we did it. It was Sidney Poitier movie. Oh, Claudia. It was Claudia.
Claudine. James Earl Jones. Yeah. So we're gonna do this one next week. The next 2 weeks, we kind of discussed it. We'll take a break. We'll play some replays because the day after Christmas and the day after New Year's. And then we'll be back. But we'll be back.
I'm coming live.
Yeah, Hollywood Shuffle. We got to do a throwback. We do throwbacks. You know that. How long you been here? You been here, Keisha? All right,
She don't be riding with us, man. She don't be riding with us.
Yeah.
Also,
we
we
riding
off
in
for
the
the rest
back
of the
seat.
year.
Be riding with us, man.
Huh?
We off for the rest of the year? After next week?
After Hollywood Shuffle, yeah. Yeah, but we'll be back on what is that, the 9th. All right, so you already kind of touched on most of it. End of the bench. Anything else you want to add? What's coming up tomorrow?
Well, in the bench tomorrow, it's gonna be way longer than it normally is. It's gonna be my show. And tomorrow is literally the 7-year anniversary of my show. I started 7 years ago tomorrow on my mother's birthday, my late mother's birthday. My mother inspired me to do the end of the bench. Thank you. Yeah, she inspired me. In maybe about 30 days before she died, she reminded me of something I told her when I was 10 years old. And she said, you should do it. And then I kicked the can around for a little while. And I got put on this show called Windy City Clutch. And then they asked, I was supposed to be a football guest. And they asked me to stay. And then I did the end of the bench on the 13th of December, 7 years ago. So I'm going to talk about that. And then after my show, April Showers and this sister called Together We Break the Chains. They are going to interview me on my platform. And it's called Fun Facts About H-Rap. So it's just going to be a celebration tomorrow. And I am going to tie some historical things to this whole Dion thing and show people why I think it's impossible to say, well, you just pass the baton. It's an unpassable baton. But he gave us the blueprint. You can't follow that blueprint. You can't. That's like saying, hey, Angelo Dundee, go get another Muhammad Ali. That's all you have to do is go get another Muhammad Ali. But so I'm gonna show the parallels and y'all made me think of something in regards to history repeating itself, and that's what I'm going to tap into this. And if CJ is still watching, I got a text that says the show that's supposed to start may not start Thursday. So if you still want me on, I'll come on Thursday. But yeah, I think it's bigger than Prime, and that's what I'm gonna talk about.
It always is. It's always bigger than the story. It's just a matter of if we got to tap into that or not. Or we gonna be closed minded. All right, Queen 3 and King tomorrow.
Our topic tomorrow is fuel of fathers. Basically, we are talking about the things that inspire us as fathers, things that piss us off as fathers. What fuels you, and just some of the drawbacks and pitfalls and benefits, beauties. In fact, I started to change the title to the pressure, pleasure, and pain of fatherhood because they all kind of match, but I may be doing something.
I thought you were going to say fears of a father.
Yeah.
I know my greatest fear as a father was when she said, I'm pregnant.
And, we will have special guests, the comedian John Yogi Lewis on from Man Talk Mondays, and we will have Justin Caraway on from the Elevate podcast. So it ought to be a good time and some pretty dope content.
Definitely looking forward to that. And real quick, I've seen this flyer that comedian John Yogi is going to be doing a stand-up, I believe it's this weekend.
This weekend, Saturday, 7 p.m. In Frisco on Main. So yeah, and then he'll also be in the Grove on Wednesday night too for a show. So direct message us and whatnot if you're interested in showtimes or tickets or whatever to be able to support him.
Definitely. All right.
All right.
Wrap. Go ahead and close us out.
As usual, man, thank everybody for tuning in. And salute to Reggie O'Shea. And I have to say it the way I say it every week. Dream your dreams and man up and woman up, live your dreams, because life without dreams flows in black and white. Life with dreams flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And since it's so close to Christmas, if I owe you something, I ain't got it. And if you need it, get it from God. Peace. God.
Thunderstorm.
Shut your white mouth.
You better shut your white mouth.
BS3 Network. Changing the way you watch TV.